How do robots... Oh, hey Roboteers! Welcome to the Robotics Parlor! We're going to be doing a new segment this time where we use the Google Autofill game, and we'll be using the phrase, how do robots? And then Googling, how do robots A through Z? With our first question being, how do robots affect our lives? So, when answering the question of how do robots affect our lives, you need to first define a robot, and in this context we'll be defining a robot as anything where it affects the physical world and also follows a program. For example, one thing that could be considered a robot that affects your everyday life is a thermostat. A thermostat follows a program, has sensors to check the temperature, and then will either turn on a heater or an air conditioner. A more typical example of a robot is robots used in factories and automation. About 10% of all factory work in the US is now done through robots, and that's expected to rise to 25% in the next 10 years. Robots in factories are mostly used for tasks that are very repetitive, or tasks that are dangerous to humans, or tasks that are kind of boring, because humans, when having to do a repetitive, boring task, start to get tired and more error-prone as they do it. Whereas a robot is perfectly happy to just keep doing the same thing over and over until it runs out of power. Another area where you might not expect robots to be is actually in crops and in farming. Robots in these areas are being used to monitor the crops as well as to monitor irrigation to make sure the crops are healthy, and that makes it easier for farmers to farm vast tracts of land. So another place robots are affecting our lives are through medical robots. One example of these is the Vinci Robot, in which a surgeon will be able to manipulate what the robot's pincers do and look through a camera to be able to perform surgery. Some people might say that this isn't completely a robot because the surgeon does have a high level of control, but the robot does have sophisticated programming in order to translate the surgeon's commands and motions to what the pincers and other tools do, as well as making sure the robot will never malfunction and hurt a patient. Another example of a robot that might be affecting your life is self-driving cars, which may be becoming more common in the future. And that's definitely a robot because it's a machine that affects the physical world and is controlled by a computer program. And even if the robot doesn't do self-driving all the time, it'll at least help your parallel parking, which I can't wait for. Because who likes parallel parking? No one. No one does. Some people may be worried or may argue that robots are going to take over all of our jobs. But I, for one, am not worried. If you think about it, about 100 years ago or so, most people were working on farms. And now, less than 2% of people are working on farms. Humans are adaptable and are always changing. But robots can take over some of the more dangerous and repetitive work, giving us room and time to grow more as people. Thanks for joining me in the Robotics Parlor. Thank you to MN Drive for sponsoring this project. I hope you're enjoying this new series. Let me know if you like it, but I'm probably going to keep doing it anyway. And I hope you have a roboterific day.